Now, today we will see how do we extend the domain in the unit circle? How do we find out sine, cosine, or any kind of trigonometric functions when your angle is not between 0 or 360? Now, in order for us to use the unit circle, our angle it needs to be between 0 and 360. That's the main idea today here. So let's see. We have seen how to find sine, cosine, tangent. But if you notice all the examples we were doing before, it was between 0 and 360 because we want to use our unit circle. So now what happens if we want to find out what's the cosine of 390? So if we look at your unit circle here, if you look at all the angles, it goes all the way to 360 and then repeats again. So there is no 390 degrees in your unit circle. So if you have some kind of degree that is greater than 360, what you have to do is you subtract 360 degrees until you have an angle that is between 0 and 360. So let's see. Here we want to find out the cosine of 390. 390 degrees is not on our unit circle here. So what do? We look at our degree, and like it says here, if your degree is greater than 360, you subtract 360. So now we're going to have so calculator here. So 390 minus 360, that's equal to 30. So now notice that 30 is between 0 and 360. So we know that the cosine of 390, that's the same as the cosine of 30. And now we know how to find cosine of 30 on your unit circle. Here's the angle. Cosine is x. So the cosine of 360, that will be square root of 3 divided by 2. Now, why is that? It's because 390, this is your reference angle, you always start here. So you go 360 degrees, and you still need 330 more in order to reach 390. So you do a full circle plus 30 degrees, which is saying that you end up in this degree. And that's why it's the same as 30 degrees. That's just an explanation. But this is how you find the value of trig functions when your degree is greater than 360. So let's do some more examples here. Now, let's see. We want to find the cosine on 765. We notice that 765 is not on your unit circle. It's greater than 360. So what we have to do here, let's get our calculator, to 765 minus 360. That is equal to 405. But still, 405 is greater than 360. So we got to subtract 360 again. So minus 360. So now we got 45. And notice that 45, we have it here in a unit circle. So that says that cosine of 765 is the same as the cosine of 45. And now we can use our unit circle to find the cosine of 45. Here we have 45. If I want the cosine, I look at the x value in the coordinate. So that's the same as square root of 2 over 2. Let's do one more example here. Well, two more, I guess. Let's do number 3. Now we're going to find the sine of 1290. Notice that 1290 is not a unit circle. It's greater than 360. So we first want to make our domain be between 0 and 360. So what do? You get your degree, 1290, and you want to subtract 360. 930, still greater than 360, so we subtract again. Still greater than 360, so we subtract again. 210. 210, we have it right here on your unit circle. So now we know that sine of 1290 is the same as the sine of 210. Here we have 210. If I want the sine of it, I look at the y value. So that will be negative 1/2. So just lastly, let's look at the sine of 1755, 1755. So again, it's greater than 360. So we get our domain. Oops, an extra 5 there. And we subtract 360. So minus 360. Still greater than 360, so we're going to subtract until we get something that is between 0 and 360. Okay, so we subtract again. 315. So according to this is the same as the sine of 315. 315 is right here. If I want the sine of it, we're going to look at the y, so which is right here. So that's equals to negative square root of 2 over 2. Now, let's look when we have negative degrees. So still, like, notice that your unit circle, it's all positive. So what you want to do is, if you have a negative degree and you want to find out the cosine or sine of it, what you have to do is make it positive. And how do we make it positive? By adding 360 degrees. So we do the opposite. If your degree is greater than 360, then you subtract. But if your degree is negative, we're going to be adding. So let's see. Negative 390. Now I need to add 360 because I want to make it positive. I want to add a full circle. Still negative 30, so I need to add 360 again. So cool. So now we know that the cosine of negative 390 is the same as the cosine of 330. So let's see. We got 330 here. If I want the cosine, I look at the x coordinate. So that'll be square root of 3 over 2. So now let's look at our next example. So if your degree is negative, we're going to add 360. So we have here negative 600. Oh, start that again. Negative 600. Okay, there is 600. Let's add 360. Still negative, so let's add another 360. So 120. So this is the same as the cosine of 120. So let's see, where's 120? 120 is right here. I want the cosine of it, so we look at the x. So that's negative 1/2. So lastly, let's look at the sine of negative 1020. Negative, so what do? I want to make it positive, so 1020 plus 360 plus, you want to make it positive, so we keep adding circles, and each circle has 360 degrees, so that's why I'm adding 360. So now we get 60 now. So this is the same as the sine. Oops, looks like a 5. So this is the same as the sine of 60. Here's 60. If I want the sine, I look at the y. That's square root of 3 over 2. So this is how you fix whenever your domain is either greater than 360 or a negative angle. So now, here's your entrance ticket.